Good evening, everyone. This is Dylan Aldridge, and today I'll be doing the Controlled Substances Act. A little background on this bill. So the Controlled Substances Act established the federal drug policy in the United States, and it was included in the Comprehensive Drug Abuse Prevention and Control Act of 1970, which provides a legal foundation for the Drug Enforcement Agency to regulate narcotic substances. Regulation of addictive pharmaceutical drugs began with the Pure Food and Drug Act in 1906, which included addictive substances such as cocaine and heroin, which are being included in common over-the-counter products. But by 1969, the Nixon administration wanted to combine previously existing federal drug laws, which were complex and were pretty much all over the place, but he also wanted to significantly expand their scope and the ability to enforce them legally. Some of the provisions in this bill. This legislation created 5 schedules, or also known as classifications of substances, with the DEA and the Food and Drug Administration given the authority to determine which schedule a drug qualifies for. And classification decisions are based on criteria that includes the potential for abuse. However, this is really an undefined term, as the DEA can claim a drug has a high potential of abuse, even if the medical community generally disagrees. Schedule 1 substances are described as having a high potential of abuse, not having accepted medical use, and not being safe to use even under medical supervision. This is rather controversial because certain drugs such as marijuana or LSD technically may not have an accepted medical use, but are not described as having a high potential for abuse in the medical community, even though the DEA classifies them as such. Meanwhile, schedules 2 through 5 are determined to be safer and acceptable for use in medical settings. These include certain prescription drugs for ADHD or anxiety, as well as over-the-counter or prescribed opiate painkillers. So how is this bill enforced? The Drug Enforcement Administration has the authority to investigate any drug at any time based upon information that they receive confidentially from laboratories or local or state law enforcement agencies, and they rely on the Department of Health and Human Services scientific and medical evaluations to determine if they should be controlled or not. How this process works is that the HHS works with the FDA and the National Institute on Drug Abuse to compile a list of information on a substance and send a comprehensive report to the DEA, whose administrator decides based on recommendations if it should be scheduled or not. How is this act regulated? This act provides for federal regulation of precursors used to manufacture controlled substances, with one example being pseudoephedrine, used in the manufacture of methamphetamine. If you've ever watched Breaking Bad, you know that you can only purchase a small amount and you are registered into a database, so it is hard to stockpile on this stuff. The law requires signatures written down by the purchaser, presentation of photo identification, and restrictions on the amount purchased, both daily and monthly cap limits. This strongly affects the scientific community, as researchers who use controlled substances or precursors are required to maintain a highly detailed numbered identification database, which is a very complex task, as tens of thousands of substances at the milligram level are used in biochemistry labs. So each collection of those tiny amounts of substances have to be registered. What are the effects of this bill? The Controlled Substances Act, which is really a punitive bill to focus on punishment, largely expanded federal power, largely initiated the war on drugs, which really has been a resounding failure, with record numbers of Americans dying from overdoses and an unprecedented rise in incarceration rates that are related to illegal substances. Harsh indictments for simple possession of drugs not considered to be addictive by the medical community, even though the DEA says they are, as well as tight control of precursors, have been viewed as a dangerous exercise of power by the federal government and the opposite of libertarian ideals, which would be more as, you are free to do this as long as it does not hurt anyone else. Some more effects. Many argue that the scheduling process is inconsistent and influenced more by politics rather than science, which is evident in the battle over marijuana right now, and even some local states and cities deciding to make certain psychedelics legal. In addition, the stringent regulation of many substances has made it extremely for researchers to study their potential medical uses and benefits. However, this act did create, in a positive light, a regulatory framework for protecting Americans from and educating them about dangerous substances, while standardizing drug laws across the country to fight interstate trafficking and facilitating the mitigation of prescription drug abuse, which has become quite the issue. References? Thank you very much.